What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I'm a musician and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. As always, I thank you so very much for being here. Thank you for being here another week. Thank you for going to zambonifong.com. You can get a reading there. You can get a 60 or 30-minute reading where we will talk back and forth on a Zoom call. We can do a 10-minute reading, which is very much like this weekly forecast, where you will send me your information and a question, and I will respond to that. Don't forget that you can get a free reading like this by going to zambonifong.com/store, and me and my friend Brian, delicious Brian Wilkins, will do a reading live on the podcast. So go check that out. The podcast is called What is the Time? You can also at zambonifong.com get enrolled in the course. And if you want to learn astrology, then there's a course called Astrology from the Ground Up, which is coming up. We will begin on October 24th. We would love to have you there. Thank you so much for doing all of those things. Let's talk about the astrology of the week ahead. This week is a pretty big one. It is the last of the Libra and Aries eclipses. Woo! All right, we are turning the corner. 2 weeks ago, we had a Pisces eclipse, and so that is sort of like the beginning of the next cycle. This is the end of the previous cycle. So this is going to be a new moon solar eclipse in Libra. It is going to be closely conjunct Mercury, which is to say that early in the week, so the eclipse happens on Wednesday. On Monday, we're going to see a Mercury cazimi in Libra. So that's Mercury in the heart of the sun. That's going to be Mercury sort of, whenever I see a cazimi like this, I always say it's going to be like a special message from the king or something like that, especially with Mercury being the message and the sun being the king. Then I really like that analogy here. Now that it works pretty well for all the planets, but especially for Mercury, then that goes pretty hard. So the thing here is that Libra tends to be less about proclamation, declaration, like this is, I said it and let it be so. And it's more about like, well, here's a thing to think about. And what do we, like, chat, is this real? Like that is kind of the vibe here. So there's something here about, it wants to be kind of like cool and chill and nice and, diplomatic, maybe not even nice, but diplomatic in some kind of way. But there's something like backhanded about it. There's something like perhaps carrying a dagger behind its back. It's interesting to see that the ruler of Libra is Venus, and we have Venus in Scorpio right now. So Scorpio is a Mars sign, and so we're going to be thinking about sharp things. We're going to be thinking about, the Scorpion has a needle that penetrates deeply and injects venom, right? So there's something here that is kind of dangerous, right? And we can notice that this Venus in Scorpio throughout the week is going to be making a grand trine to Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, who is in Cancer right now. Mars in Cancer is pretty full of feelings, and Cancer being the sign of the mother and this kind of thing, like nurturing and that sort of dynamic. Mars typically isn't associated with that sort of dynamic. What we might think about with Mars in Cancer is mama bear kind of energy, like you get too close to the nest and now it's all out war, and you have to be destroyed because you got too close to the heart space, right? That kind of thing. So Venus in Scorpio is ruled by that and is making a trine to that Mars in Scorpio, and also going to be making a trine to Saturn in Pisces. So Saturn and Mars, those are the malefics. Those are the ones that bring discomfort and trouble and, like things that are not fun to deal with for the most part. So Grand Trine is going to be supportive. And so, this is Venus being strongly supported by those who would do harm, right? So, and then that Venus is the one who is ruling all the stuff in Libra, including the Mercury cazimi, also including the solar eclipses, which is going to happen 2 days after that cazimi. So this looks like it is dangerous in some kind of way. It is, especially if you are, if you have like the sun in Libra, for example, or maybe the moon in Libra, then these eclipses have likely been like uncomfortable for you for a year and a half now, and so seeing the end of this cycle is likely to be welcome for those folks for sure. But we are not there yet. We are not out of the woods yet, and as far as that is concerned, especially if you've got early Libra placements, then we're likely to see some of this kind of like diplomatic danger come up in some sort of way that looks like it could be, especially since we see also that the solar eclipse is going to happen. And so eclipses, those are moments of shadow, right? It's a moment where the moon passes in front of the sun such that it casts a shadow onto the earth, and so it sort of like blots out the sun for a moment, right? So the sun's job is to shine brightly, to like come out in here and just like, here I am, I have arrived, and now you can see, right? The sun is associated with visibility and with the eyes and with the self, the source, the light in some kind of way, right? This little light of mine is a way that I often think about the sun. So the sun in Libra is already in fall, and so is in a position where it's like a little more timid or something like this and less confident than we typically like to see the sun being. Then we can add the eclipse dynamic to it. So now the sun, whose job it is to be bright, is now dark. There's a shadow over the face of the sun. And so this is rough for solar dynamics if we're thinking about celebrities, if we're thinking about imperial figures, if we're thinking about heads of state or heads of companies, or all of that sort of thing, like the people who are sort of in charge, the idea people, all this sort of stuff. That sort of stuff seems like it wants to run into some difficulty, and maybe, eclipses are going to be associated with like toppling empires or sort of overthrowing things, or power shifting hands in some kind of way, especially seeing that Venus in Scorpio making this grand trine to the no-no boys. The no-no boys is what I like to call the malefics, the Mars in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces here. We can see that there is something here that has a lot to say, that might be diplomatic, but I don't really trust it. I don't think that the things that we hear here are likely to be the things that the actions don't necessarily follow the words when it comes to all of this sort of stuff. So, thinking with this, I did a pretty good treatment of this on the Plant Cunning podcast, by the way. I think it's 2 episodes ago now for them, that I did a quarterly forecast, and it was pretty good. We talked about this in pretty good depth. But, we're looking at in a moment where there is a lot of talking going on, and there are clearly important power plays happening, right? We're in an election season, and like this election seems like it is likely to have consequences the world over. We're in a moment where war seems to be escalating, and there's motherfuckers are talking about like, yeah, let's do a ceasefire. Also, here's some bombs, right? Like, in a moment where all of this is going on, then it's good for us to think with how can power operate in our own lives? What kind of power do we actually have? And how much are we likely to trust the people who are sort of on the other side, as well as people who are close in? This is a moment to really evaluate for ourselves what kinds of things we are saying and why we might say those things, and how words align with actions, align with patterns, align with values, right? So the values bit, I think, is kind of at the bottom of all of it, and so is the foundational layer. And so it's a good idea this week to really think into what kind of values we might hold as individuals, and then sort of like building out to larger groups from there, like into partnership or family dynamics, or the immediate, and then sort of like getting bigger and bigger, right? Where are the values really? And how can we make sure to be in alignment such that we can do what we need to do, right? Because like sometimes you gotta do stuff, you gotta say something that will be cute and still do what you were gonna do, right? I love jaywalking, for example, right? Like, it's not that I like breaking the law, it's that I want to get to the other side of the street. I don't know. It's very complicated this week, so check it out.